Hello, my name is Grant Eull. I've been a part of Basement Sketches since Project 10, and recently Neil asked us to answer a few questions in the form of a video. So here's the best attempt to answer some of those questions. Number one, what has changed about the process, or what have I learned from the process? Through the time of sketching. So far I've done like 27 sketches, like I said, since Project 10. My process actually pretty much remains the same. I take a look at the submission ideas that are presented by everybody else. I review songs to, I don't know, try to figure out whether or not I feel like confident enough to take on that. I've left a lot of good songs on the table because I just didn't think I could sing them or perform them in any way that I would be happy with. So that's the first thing I do. Then I start to sketch out pretty much beats and kind of format the song so that I know when the verses are, I know when the breaks are, and I rough all that out. Then I rough out a guitar part and a bass part, and then I usually lay down some scratch vocals. And then I start that process again, and I lay down the guitar better, and I lay down the vocals better, and I lay down the bass. And then sometimes I'll chop pieces and use the best ones, and sometimes I'll just blend stuff together. And then after I get a pretty rough mix, I start to layer in all the details, solos, extra drum fills, and all that kind of stuff. So process of recording hasn't really changed. I use Reaper as my DAW, and I'm not a super big fan of it. I don't mind the mixing session of it, but I'm hoping this year that I might move over to Logic, and maybe that'll change my process because maybe there's some things in that software. I actually find that software and investments in software have actually been the biggest sort of change for me. I invested in Arturia's V collection, which is all their virtual instruments from a synthesizer standpoint. So that's given me the ability to really hunt and peck for really great synthesizer sounds. I invested in a guitar emulator called Amplitude, and that's really up the ante on my guitar tones, and that's feeling really good. I've also invested in some mixing and mastering software via Isotope. So I just got the Isotope elements. I didn't go all in on the full package. But the Neutron and Ozone and some of the other plugins that come with that are really helping kind of just bring the details into the places they need to be. And then the mastering's great. So feeling good about those investments. And I continue to get a bunch of VSTs and reverbs and delays, and I recently bought some sort of like ambient mixing spaces, the ability to get out of my headphones and kind of mix in a room and get the sense of that. So I haven't had a chance to try any of that, but that might change my process a little bit more. At the end of my process, I usually kick out a master. I go in my car and I drive around and listen to it on the speakers behind me, whatever, that way. And then also in my car and my headphones. And if I get a balance of all three, then I'm kind of like, okay, this is probably safe to consider done. So that is my process, and unfortunately it hasn't really changed. I mean, I've learned a ton using the tools and the plugins, but the sequence of which I do things is pretty much the same. Number two, what did I like the most? That's really difficult. I go back and constantly listen to stuff, and there are stuff that I'd like to go back and redo, but there are others that I'm a super big fan of, and some that challenge me more than others. So don't necessarily have a favorite. Of those 27 or so songs, I could probably narrow it down to, 5 favorites that I like the most. Army of Me by Bjork, from forgetting what Project 17, I think. That one was really, I don't know. was fantastic. It really pushed me to use different tones. I needed to obviously sing like Bjork, so I needed to be experimental in how I played with the vocals, and I went with this evil robot kind of feel, and just really loved the way that one turned out. I also, because of the synthesizer work, I'm a guitar player. Normally, I kind of lead towards those ones because they're easier for me to do. But in the synthesizer space, I've been really digging the Devo stuff. But of all of that stuff, I'd probably say moving in stereo from music from movies, Project 15 from the Cars, moving in stereo. That was fantastic. Not only from trying to learn those keyboard parts and perform that, but also from a vocal standpoint and from a mixing standpoint. That was a super big challenge, and one that I was really satisfied in the end. Um, Going all the way back to the first project I got involved in, Project 10, 1977, I think I'm really, really, really happy with the version of Passenger by Iggy Pop that I put out. Again, my going back to that process question, a lot of people go into this project and they are super creative, and they create their unique versions of all these songs. Whereas I go into it with a sort of more emulation and try and learn from the original and really mimic this as much as I can. Being in a home studio, mimic the sounds and mimic the production values and stuff like that. So the Passenger, I think, turned out fantastic with that in mind. Having never done it before, I'm really satisfied even now going back, with the quality of how that turned out, and it being my first sort of recording experience as an engineer. Um, from Project 11, we all pick songs from 1991. My version of Planet of Sound from the Pixies, I'm really happy with. And then also from the Playlist Challenge Project 8, I believe it was, Dirty Boots, or Project 18. I mean, well, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't Project 18, but yeah, it's probably Project 8. Dirty Boots from Sonic Youth. Really, really liked how that turned out. That was just a epic kind of experimental guitar feedback, and just really, really, again, happy with the way Amplitude was able to get to some really gritty guitar tones, and just love the dynamics of that song. So that's the ones I'm liking the most. As far as my favorite song, probably Dirty Boots is definitely probably one of the favorites that I've done, from a traditional process, and one that was like, okay, this was, for lack of a better word, easy for me. Not super easy, but fell in my wheelhouse. As far as pushing or challenging myself, I would say that Take Me Home by Phil Collins was a one that I've done as part of all of these sketches, and that one really, really pushed me. Certainly couldn't sing it, so I did some harmony work, and I actually had my daughter sing part of it, and then I built the whole thing, all these sequenced keyboards and everything. That was a big challenge, and awesome, super, super fun to push myself in new ways to do that cover. So that's also a favorite. As far as three covers, again, really, really hard to pick three songs from other people that I absolutely love. Every time a new project comes up, I really enjoy the time when they get posted, and I get to go back and listen to what other people did. Tal's version of Army of Me stands out. It was just a huge surprise as to the take he took on that song, and it was super fun to listen back to. Colby's version of the Laura Palmer theme from Twin Peaks on the Movie Challenge was excellent. And I think it was Bill that did, what did Bill do that I really loved? I got some notes here. His version of Alive by Pearl Jam is like super, super unique, and was a surprise to me as to his take on it. So that's the three that I'll pick. Looking forward to doing more in 2023, and hoping to challenge myself a little bit more and maybe be a little bit more creative this year. All right, thanks. Bye.